Hey guys, I felt the need to make a replication tutorial. My own team is asking questions occasionally, and I know as the team grows, I'll need to answer these questions a lot more. And I was actually trying to find a old tutorial that helped me learn, um, which I couldn't find anymore. The treasure box is actually on Unreal's map. There's a tutorial floating around there, floating around the internet. Uh, it might have been the author that actually made this, but someone goes over these treasure boxes pretty well, and I couldn't find it, so I'm gonna go over them really quickly again. But at the same time, I want to get more into kind of why you do certain things in replication, and I'm trying to help visualize it as well. But yeah, I was trying to find some tutorials for my guys, and you just get this madness. And if you're new to this stuff, it's probably demoralizing. But I feel like everyone had to go through it eventually, push through it. Eventually, it makes sense, and then it's fun. Then you feel powerful. um, but yeah, let's kind of. Well, I guess before we jump in, there's two major ways that things are networked in Unreal. That the variables can be sent across, or servers can tell clients to fire off functions or whatever. The way things communicate, I guess, in Unreal is through RPCs, or remote function calls, and rep notify properties. And we'll just get into those. I'll show you. But basically, all these examples out here are showing just different ways that you can use a function call or a rep notify variable. And let's play with. I'm going to play with 3 people. I'm going to play as dedicated server because I don't know, that's just what I'm used to. That's what Order Pursuits is. But really behind the scenes, a listen server you can think of is really just a client that's also running another like instance of UE4 that's also running the server side logic as well. Um, so I guess let's try to blitz through this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk past all these treasure boxes, and what it's doing is it's opening them. They have a trigger on them, or whatever the collision boxes on them. Yeah, trigger boxes. And as you hit them, they open. But they all open in different ways, and you won't really notice it until another client comes. So the first box you'll see down there didn't open at all, and that's because it doesn't replicate. Um, it's actually opened on the server, which I'm running a dedicated server, so none of these clients are the server. I bet a listen server, I bet they could see that box open, at least the client playing as the server could. But you don't see it open because it didn't replicate. And what's funny though is I think I was playing around earlier and you can see my character's kind of stepping up on it as it is open. Like I'm stuck right here, I can't walk behind it. So it's acting like it is open. But whatever. Or it is open on the server, but I can't see it as the client because it didn't replicate to me. Anyways, so these blue rings, what they are, here, let me send it to the screen a little bit better. So what these blue rings are is network relevancy spheres, and you'll notice the author of this map, he's adjusted these, and at begin play, which one is it? Or construction kit? No. So yeah, he did it begin play, he took the net cold distance, blah 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 squared, and he made that blue ring out of the distance. Basically what that is it's saying once I walk in this ring, I'm in network relevancy. And what that is that means basically if you have a map with just tons of items, World of Pursuits actually does this. We got cars in there, we got pawns in there, we're gonna have destructibles in there, street signs can go flying, whatever else. But if you have a lot of actors that you want to keep synced, so all clients can kind of see where they are together, um, you got to use bandwidth, and bandwidth is the most expensive resource. So you want to save bandwidth. So that's what network relevancy is. You don't want to get actors info that you can't even see. So imagine, this is for well, actually let me show you what it does first. So if this client walks into this network relevancy, I don't think it's going to do anything. No. And that's because this one used a function call. And I'll come back to this. It'll hopefully just make sense. I'm going to shotgun this all at you. I guess replay a bunch of times. So this one missed it. Like I don't see Actually, I'm not even sure how I got that it was open. Oh, I'm playing as my original. This is the guy that's all. This is the character that ran down the mall. Sorry. So this guy, he's going to come into this network relevancy. He's not going to see it open because it was a function call, and function calls should only be used for things that are not persistent. So as the last example gets into that, where the gold effect is the only thing that's on a function call. But in this case, nothing is. They open the box and they also play the gold effect, the opening effect on a function call. And I wasn't this character that I'm playing on. I wasn't here in this blue ring. I have to be in this blue ring to get that function call when it goes off. So I wasn't there. I didn't get it. So now my client just thinks this is forever open. So if the server never ever sends it again, and it probably won't, I'm just kind of bugged in a sense. So the next one they use an on rep. And so this is closer, and gameplay wise, it kind of fixes it. But when I get into network relevancy, and you can also think about this as a players joining your server, it's an open world. Um, they plopped in, they came into this sphere now. When I get in range to receive signals, it's like in a real game, you'd probably stretch this blue sphere, the network relevancy, maybe around the corners. So it's already like opening before I even get into this room. But you can see it real close up right here. As I get in, boom, it opens. Now it technically shouldn't have played the effect as if it was just open. Probably shouldn't even have gold in it. That probably should be bound to it as well. But at least it's open when I got in there. So you can imagine this network relevancy, real big, and it opened, outside this building before I even got in here. That's kind of wasteful, but whatever. I come in, I just see it on the ground open. But yeah, the effects is kind of, it doesn't need to be that way. It's kind of wasteful code even. So what they did in this one is the gold effect is using a function call, and then there's also a boolean. I guess I could show this. I should show this. This is the rep notify one. So yeah, they made this chest open boolean, and all it does is on touch set it open, blah blah blah. But the chest opens on the rep notify. Ooh, let me switch back to this guy. The chest opens on that boolean being rep notify, and I'll kind of get into this a little bit more too. But just know that it's opening now based on a boolean, based on that binding. But it's only going to play the gold effect through a function. So now that character right there is the one that already opened it. And he can see it open because that's the last thing that ran on his computer. So again, it's like I'm not even on the server yet. I don't even really, Actor doesn't care about me. But once it comes into relevancy, you're not going to see the gold play. Doop, you're just going to see the box open, which is more correct because I wasn't the one that opened it. And we can kind of see how that's done now that you kind of see what they do. Let's see. First, these are all parents. So let's go look at the parent. The parent's the one that doesn't replicate all the way down there. So the parent is the one that does the actual trigger. They put the box in it. When you touch it, it opens the chest and plays the goal. But this doesn't. This doesn't replicate right here. Doesn't replicate, so we never know. Only the server knows. Clients never see it. So the one that actually works, I'm going to skip the other ones. The one that actually works is, hang on, let me make sure I'm on the right one. I was not. So the one that works is using a hybrid. So on chest touch, which this event comes from the parent up here. I guess they overrode it there or something like that. But event on chest touched, it will set chest open. And this is, I kind of wish it was a little bit clearer. I guess it doesn't matter. I'm not sure if it even matters performance-wise, but something to note is if it's got I guess I can show how those are made first in case you're a super noob out there. So if you make a new variable, set it to on rep notify, and it'll give you this function. And that's what they did. If you don't set it, like, let's see, delete that. It even sets it back to just replicated for me. So if you don't need the function to call, like say if it's just, I don't know, if you don't need a function or if you don't need something to fire off when the variable's set, then just leave it replicated. But in this case, the chest open needs to do something. So What's happening here is as a character comes into that network relevancy, because this is, and this is built into Unreal, and because this is set to rep notify, let me kill that one. They will get it. They will get it. It's just automatic. It's reliable. It's always reliable. You go into that sphere and you're going to get this. So whether a player, set it off himself and got this originally, or he joins in later, he's going to get this variable at some point. It's going to sync. Um, Something to note though, it's only going to sync if it changed. Um, like if okay, so what does this default to do? It's defaulted to false. So if no one's opened this treasure box and my character walks into the network relevancy, it's not going to replicate false again to me. It's not going to do that. So in this case, it doesn't matter, but there is spots in code where it's kind of like I've been working and I expect it to, I don't know, fire off on the default value and it doesn't. Kind of whatever. Anyways, just know that it's only going to replicate on change, which in this case works. So we only care to do something on the client's computer when it is open and it starts closed. But yeah, these are always reliable. They'll always get this boolean at some point or another when they come in network relevancy. Function calls though, you have to manually set reliable or not. And most of the time you don't want to. Like 99% of the time you'll get these. You really only want to set reliable ones that, like, if this doesn't work, like the game bugs, it breaks or it's broken now. So for example, this little gold particle effect thing, like who cares? Like no one's crashing. You just won't. It won't be as fulfilling opening your treasure box, I guess. But you can sacrifice this because, say for example, it is a shooter game you're in. Well, you should prioritize actual like combat bandwidth. So effects, it doesn't need to be reliable. Um, but yeah, they say on touch, rep notify, which will fire off this function automatically, and that's what opens the chest, setting the lid. So that will be called basically this function. So basically, this function will always get called when a new person joins, uh, unless it's false, because then it won't replicate because it's false to false in a sense. But it won't matter because it's already closed. Just when it goes true, it'll open that way. So yeah, they set the booleans, they let that do that on rep, and then they call a multicast. And this is kind of what we're getting into some RPCs now. So, well, there's not that many. I guess I can just show these real quick. So when you make a new function, you have the option to make it multicast, run on server, run on owning client. And actually, I'm gonna go to these test class I made first. So again, I'm not going too far into this. Hopefully this is it's kind of a real high level blitz kind of look at those treasure boxes. I'll let you guys dig into them. Really, I kind of wanted to get into the stuff that you can't find online. And mainly the things that kind of do and don't replicate, and they're just kind of, I feel like I figured these out through the years, I guess, just dealing with the bugs to find them out. So for example, like just the core things, like a game mode, like these are some core classes used in Unreal. Game modes, they don't replicate. They're only going to live on the server. So if you're a listen server, it might be valid for you. But something to note, game mode doesn't replicate. So like if client 1 wants to get game mode, they're not going to be able to do it. Game instance doesn't replicate, and it actually survives level changes. In World of Pursuits, we have an inventory caching system. That all goes into the game instance, so it stays with you as you're leaving and switching servers and going in and out of garages and offline levels and whatever. Player controllers. I've seen a lot of kind of new guys in networking not know or not realize or for example, the most common I'll see is someone will come into a player controller. This is the network player controller, and I'll see this all the time. Someone's made a variable. They've said, all right, it's a rep notify. We'll actually make it an int. and then they'll be trying to do something with it. And really, this function is basically, this is a multicast in a sense. And I can show you that right here. So I guess let's just go through all the calls first. Let's start there. So what was I doing here? I'll break this one, and let's just play in the player controller first. This is the character class. So character, okay, so let's just do this first. Let's say this isn't replicated. All it's going to do is print a string. Let's just make sure our spacebar works. So spacebar. So client one, yo, this is a test. So let's tell the server something. Let's tell the server we're hitting spacebar. And so this is where owning client comes in. And you'll also see it in the controller. Where am I? By default, controllers only replicate to owner, meaning the person. It kind of works like this. I guess this is why I made this spreadsheet or this flowchart. So client one gets a controller when they, I guess, where is it? It's all these guys right here. Client one gets a controller. They get a player class. They get all these classes basically when they join or on startup. So they get their player one controller, but the server also gets a copy. And I'll just put in here only replicates the owner, meaning player two comes online, they get their controller, and so does the server. But player one can't ever see this one. They can't see each other's controllers. And I mean, you could go change that if you wanted to allow that, but it's by default that way because typically player controller logic is like literally between the keyboard and what the game's doing. Typically clients don't care what someone's joysticks are doing on another machine. So typically that kind of stuff is like you're pressing a button and you tell the server. So you still need to replicate because you still want to be able to talk to the server in that class, but it's, I'll push the button and the server can maybe respond like, all right, cool, your action's doing whatever. Maybe you just see it visually in the world. But something to note, because it only replicates to owner, rep notifies don't work. And I was kind of even playing around just to make sure I was remembering correctly before I made this tutorial. I even tried it myself. So normally, because this is a rep notify, you could set it here on the server. Server's even setting it. If it wasn't, it wouldn't replicate anyways. But let me show you this actually. Let's just set it, I don't know, to 2. And then when it gets set to 2, it'll fire this off. And then we'll just print string it out. Screw it. So what should happen is I press spacebar, and spacebar just naturally automatically only runs on a client. Obviously, when I push spacebar on my computer, there's no way a server knows I did that until I told it I did that. So I push spacebar, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to tell the server I'm basically pushing spacebar or whatever. Just made a quick function called send a message. So it's going to tell the server, here's my message. I'm just going to print that for some reason still. But it's going to set this to 2. And what will happen is this will get called. But let's see what it does first. So I hit space, and you see it gets called. Oh, but you'll also notice. Dang, where was I? You'll notice where it's being called. I'm breakpointing on server right now. Press play again. It also gets called on client one, and that's because I hit spacebar. So that's me hitting spacebar. I tell the server I hit spacebar. The spacebar sets a rep notify, which in turn calls a multicast. Just stick with me, I guess, if you're new to this. It'll make sense eventually. it calls a multicast, and what that does is, so what's happened is my computer is like, yo, server, I hit spacebar, and server is like, all right, I'm gonna tell everyone you hit spacebar. In this case, because player controller is only replicated with owner, wherever that was, because it's only replicated with owner, meaning, I hit spacebar. Server tries to send it to everyone, but it's only replicated with me, so those all requests, those connections don't exist, and it just comes back to me saying, or this variable got set to 2. So server sets a variable to 2, which naturally just triggers because it's because it's set to rep notify. It'll automatically send out a multicast, so both the server and client hit there. But this is an issue that I see a lot of kind of new programmers do because they expect to set rep notify. Most commonly, you're working in an actor, and an actor is owned by the server, and it does fully replicate to everyone. So you set it on rep on that, and it will go to everyone, just like in this network right here. Everyone will see the treasure box. But something to look out for is these facts. The player controller only replicates to the client that owns it, and like stuff like game instance doesn't. So if you want to put like your character ID or your character health, that can go into your either character class itself, because it kind of makes sense. It is character's class, or I'll see people put it in the player state sometimes, because player state is kind of like it's almost like the player controller, but it's not though. It's really, I mean, it's called state because it's supposed to like kind of send out like your status. So maybe health could belong in there. I don't know. Maybe if you're in vehicle or not for mini-map purposes, player state replicates to everyone. And when something replicates to everyone, so like a character is an actor, player state's the same way. Most things are this way, and that's why the player controller can get weird because people are expecting the on rep notifies to fire everywhere, and they won't. Just like the multicast won't either. Where's the event graph? So if I didn't try to do on rep, if I try to go back to this actual, and this one is the server now calling a multicast to execute on all, and only servers can call multicast. If you try to go this way, it's only gonna. I guess I can show you. You'll see which instance actually hits that breakpoint. So let's see. I'm playing as client 1, I hit space, and we'll see client 1 is running this logic. That's the only one that ran it because clients can't call a multicast. That would be really hackable. So client has to tell the server first, and it's allowed because it is the owning client. Server can do its validation stuff to prevent hacking. And then the server can call this. So if the server does this, because it runs on all, which includes the server itself, you'll see this hit just like this thing. You'll see it hit client and server. But again, it's not a full multicast because it's still only between server and owner, and I'm going to get into that one next. So hit space. We see server hits it first, then client hits it. So this logic only ran on server and client. You can see it print out only server and client printing. But let's go test it out in a class that actually fully replicates. So same thing, copy and paste this logic. And we'll run it all the way through. We don't need that one in the middle. Oh, I was actually gonna, I'm not gonna get into that yet. I'll just breakpoints we see. Actually, we don't even need a breakpoint. We can just look in the console. So let's see. Client 1 puts a space, but whoa, we just saw all of them print this time. So client 1 printed it, client 2 and client 3 and the server. Everyone ran it. That's typically what you think that's what a multicast is. It's going to multiple people. And again, it can only be called from the server, so you have to chain it. So this is how players can kind of talk to each other, and this is what I was going to get into as well. So If you wanted to send a message, so in this case, let's see, if we're going to be, I guess, good programmers, we're actually going to say the dedicated server doesn't need to do this, because I don't even know if dedicated server is actually built or packaged with text renderers. So I added this text renderer to this character, and a lot of times, like a server version is literally just a console app. If you open it up, let's go to that actually. I can show you a water pursuit server. They're just console apps, but there's no cosmetics. Why would you want an application running on some computer in some warehouse somewhere showing pretty things in cosmetics? That's just a waste of performance. There's no gamer on that machine to see it. So like when we start up our test level for water pursuits, this is what it actually looks like. This machine's really slow. It's this. This is the server. This is what people are connecting to and running. It's just a console application. You see a loading map, blah blah blah. So a lot of times in multicast like this, another networking thing is you probably don't want to run this on the server. Right? And sometimes you can crash in a build. If you try to do things that's not packaged with the server, it'll straight up crash. So you got to put these in a lot of spots. And you can use, so there's the has authority nodes. There's these, and IsServer, and these. So I'll let you guys Google them, I guess. I typically just use these. Our game is actually IsServer and, well, not yet, but it's being built and planned around it. It'll be IsServer like when you're offline and playing in a garage, so your friends can come over in a sense. What's actually happening in real life, or like in network wise, is if I'm playing with my friend and I want to go into his garage, if he's online, he's in his garage, he's actually the server for his garage, through acceptance, and we're going to add roles in there if I can actually play with his stuff or not in his garage. But when I go into his garage, I'm actually joining his machine, because that's just two people. It'll be a few people in the machine. Anyone's kind of normal gaming computer should be able to handle it, and if not, well, just don't go to that person's garage, I guess, anymore. But on the server, it's dedicated. We can't let people cheat. In the garage, it's offline. We use an API. Anyways, getting into a tangent. I mostly stick with these. Has authority is very similar, but at times a client can have authority. So if you want to make it really clear which way the logic's running on, use these. And so, like for example, they didn't really use them in the treasure boxes. So like right here, if this was on, I'm not even sure, this might even crash on the actual dedicated server, because you're trying to play a particle effect on a server. And this event is running on server and client because it originally starts in that parent. It's on component trigger, it's on the overlap of this box. And you got to think of it in terms of there's two characters in a sense. There's two instances of characters when you're playing Unreal like this. So the client's got their instance of character and the server's got their instance of character. So when both are walking forward on the server in a sense, they're both hitting that trigger. They're both hitting that. And what happens so hang on, let me just go back to that. So both of this is called server and client, and you can test this real quickly by putting a print string. Let's run down there. And you'll see when I hit the trigger box, both client and server's characters both fire this off at the same time. Bam. Whoa. Apparently a lot of people got that. Oh, does this have like a fat never relevancy? But it doesn't actually relevant. I don't know. Either case. So client and server. Oh, that's where they stopped it. Okay, cool. So they do have a has authority right there. And because this is spawned in the world, the server owns everything in the world basically, unless you do some weird programming, I guess, or do some around that. but this is owned by the server, this is owned by the server, this is owned by the server. Everything's owned by the server but the characters, basically. You have authority over your character. And I don't really use these, so I don't want to get too far into them. I guess look them up. But I would believe if you own your character and you ran it through this, your machine's running it. I don't know. But where was I? So anyways, let's keep going and try to send these messages, I guess. So we don't want to set text on this dedicated server. Let's see what it does right now. I hit space and it should make my thing tell the other. So I hit space on that character and these guys see it. Yo, this is a test. Oh wait. If I hit space on this guy, he's got it now too. Yo, this is a test. So this is cool, and it seems like it works. Because, oh cool, players are able to like do something. I can hit a button, now other players can see this action. This guy can hit space too. Or, I'm on the wrong client. This guy can hit space too. Sweet. So it looks like it's working. You know, we could hit space all day or whatever we're doing changed, but it's actually not fully correct. And this is where it gets tricky because it's kind of a pain to test because like right now, how could I leave the server and come back? I mean, you could do network relevancy like they're doing the treasure box, making them small, but in reality, I mean, you're going to be making network relevancies normally the correct size. You're not, it's kind of a pain to see, but you just got to think, and that's kind of where I kind of jotted this down of, well, let's get back to that. You got to think, this is an RPC. Yeah, we can get into this. So why use an RPC? The logic in the actor only concerns the players around it at that time. Players out of network relevancy won't run this logic or ever be told to run this, or ever be told to unless they're close by when the server fires off the RPC. Gotta suck at writing. For example, the particle effect of the... That's not opening. Opening. For example, the particle effect of the opening of the treasure box. Jeez. Alright. But key things to take from this is players out of network relevancy won't run this logic or ever be told to. So imagine these guys are on a world together and it's huge. It's some cool level streaming map, real big, like World of Pursuits. And this guy's super across the world. He's way out of network relevancy and he pushes space. And maybe he's not trying to send a message. Maybe that was actually to transform him into a police officer. So other people probably want to know if he's a police officer. So in this case, I think a lot of time, and the character might actually always be relevant right now. Let's see. No, it's not always relevant. I'm just not far enough away. But let's pretend that guy was so far away, these guys didn't see that. Or let's just say this guy that I'm playing on right now, he's not even on the server. I'm not even joining the game yet. That guy was on the game across from me, and he went and used the police locker, and now he's a cop. I load in. Well, I'm not gonna see that because it wasn't. It was RPC. It was just fired right then and there. It sent it to the server. The server sent it multicast to all the clients, and it's done. Nothing's gonna happen again. So in order to prevent that kind of desync right there is on, or it's not even multicast anymore. We need to set this to a message variable. And this is, I feel like this is even just cleaner code. The on rep, like the rep notify booleans are beautiful. What am I doing? Message. That's massage. Losing it. It's so late right now. Dude, I'm losing my mind. How do you spell message right now? I did spell it right, man. I gotta go to sleep. What time is it? Midnight? So this thing is going to be rep notified. And like I was saying, they're basically the same thing as multicast. And here is proof. Boom. We don't want that multicast anymore. on the server, we just want to set this. And then automatically built in Unreal, this will get called. And again, this will run on all. So we actually want to filter out the server from doing cosmetic stuff. And then we just get it. This gets called because this just changed. So we already know it's something new and set it in there. And so no matter where I am now, if this guy hits space, and you'll still see it's the exact same flow in a sense. However, let's hit space on all these guys. However, this would still work well across the map, or if one of these characters joined in later. Because when they join in, well, they're going to get this on rep message. Wherever the hell I put it. They're going to get the on rep message, or they're going to get this variable. It'll be on rep. And yeah, it'll flow. So I think that's kind of all I wanted to get into. I guess we can keep going. Like, why use rep notify? Again, something needs to be persistent. I don't know. I'm not even sure why I added this, but basically, I guess because a lot of people that don't understand replication or never relevancies, they'll be spamming that always relevant. So I guess this part of the tutorials for my guys. Don't use that unless you ask. Because for real, I don't know of any reason we need to even do any more in war pursuits actually. But let's go back into this. So this guy right here, I guess we can go over these real quick. So again, only relevant to owner, just like the player controller. It's kind of misleading because Unreal will still let you do all these variables, on reps, and everything else. And sometimes it kind of makes sense because you can do it for yourself. If a client sets an on rep, that's another thing too. And I've kind of done purposefully desyncing logic. For example, the gas pump in World of Pursuits. So I guess here's the situation. You're holding F and you want to start pumping gas. Well, you want to see your price and your volume or whatever going up like in real life as you're pumping. However, I don't want to spam a server nonstop. I don't want the server changing that variable saying, 1 cent, 2 cent, 3 cent, 4 cent, just spamming. So what I actually do is I'm setting on, it's like I have some variable of like fuel quantity, and that's what gets set. So while you're in, it's through a key push of you hold F, you start pumping as you're holding F, and so I'm setting the on rep notify variable kind of like this, set to, and you can even see how this works. So it's setting on the client, so the person pumping is getting to see, it's going up, going up, going up. Now everyone else on the server doesn't get that. They don't need to get that. They don't care how much gas is in that car. And they're not getting it. It's just when you let go of F, that's when the variable resyncs in a sense. Because what I do is when you let go of F, you actually make an API call. You actually send the fuel that you pumped. That's when the validation and hacking prevention comes into play. So there's client-side validation as you're pumping. If you hit 0 on yourself, in a sense, like if your money goes to 0 on your machine, it'll stop you. If you wanted to hack around that, and because it is all it's client-side validation, if you're holding F and you've hacked around it and it goes negative, now your money's going negative. When you let go of F, that's when it does the real request. That's when it does an RPC, and it tells the server, hey, I want to buy this much fuel. And the server will either say yay or nay, and the server will reset a rep notify. So even if that client got off a little bit, maybe it's off by a cent or something like that. So far I couldn't tell. It looks like it's dead on each time, but you hold F and you're just on your machine setting a rep notify variable. So you see this function firing off on your machine. You see the gas pumping, and then when you let go, it's when it really does it. So like, let's see, this should be printing what? Printing number 2 if I hit spacebar. So you can still do this sometimes, but it's just kind of weird to see rep notify variables and multicast in a player controller. Multicast actually should never be in a controller. That doesn't make sense. But if I hit space, you can see I'm playing as client 3 right now, and only client 3 is printing 2. client 3 was. You see it right there. So something to note, that clients can set these. Clients can also call multicast, but if you're calling this stuff as a client, it's only gonna execute on that client, and it's really just kind of an organization thing. If you, I'm not gonna get into that actually, but just something to note. But yeah, going back through that list. So relevant to owner, kind of like the player, controller, whatever else you want to make the player own. If it's relevant to owner, it's only whoever owned the actor. And how to set that actor, I guess I can show you that node. It's set owner. And you can set owner to, what am I in? I'm in the character class right now, so I can literally say this character owns this. And so the owner of it cascades down. But anyways, heck, where'd all the, oh. So it kind of gets into it, and the wiki will kind of, that's what, now that I've like, hopefully reading this will make a little bit more sense that I kind of blitz through all this. To replicate its movement, does what it says. If you move it on the server, it'll automatically be told to the clients. Like for example, War Pursuit's cars, they replicate their movement. Pawns, characters automatically do. Oh, we're in a character. They automatically replicate their movement. Net load on client. This is if you've spawned an actor. Actually, this might only show one character for everyone. Let's see what this does. It still worked. I feel like it shouldn't have. I was expecting only to see one character, but net load on client, if you spawn an actor in the world, you kind of can choose, do you only want to spawn that actor and only the players currently connected to the world, or whoever's in network relevancy, only they see that. Typically you always want net load on client. I think if you even make a new actor, let's see, just blueprint actor. Yeah, these are on by default. Typically you want this. You got to be doing some weird stuff if you purposely want to desync, but you can do it. Net use only relevancy. So like for example, if you make the character own something, you can say use the owning actors relevant. So like if I made the treasure box for some reason own one of these actors down here, I believe what it does is I'd have to walk into that sphere to see this thing change or something. And it's kind of weird. I don't ever really use that. I haven't even played with this at all. I didn't even know this exists. This is my built-in like replay stuff they're working on. Cool. Obviously replicates. So none of this, basically nothing replicates. Nothing works unless you've set this. This is just kind of the root replicates. Like your on reps, nothing's gonna work. RPCs won't work. Nothing will work unless this is set true. That's the distance. Torment is kind of like basically if things can go to sleep or not. Obviously, if it's something silly like a treasure box and it can lag, and, even set priority pretty low for it, like it's not a big deal. But something that's like, characters or a first-person shooter, weapons and stuff like that, that should probably just never go to sleep. So yeah, update frequency, blah blah blah, how fast it can replicate, and it just kind of just shows the speed. I mean, by default, it's doing 100 per second, trying to check if it needs to replicate. Seems like madness. Seems like overkill. So yeah, this is, it can, basically these things throttle. Oh, it showed that actually. Use to determine what rate to throttle down. Yeah, so you can throttle them down, which is also cool. And again, you want to push all this to using the least amount of bandwidth possible, because that's profit margins. There's a lot of game studios that don't know networking. They think they can just tutorial it. They don't have an expert to guide them. And by the time the game's ready to release, after 2 years, they're realizing this logic is done so poorly and so wasteful that they actually lose money per user because it's just too costly to run. You gotta be real careful with bandwidth. But I guess that's probably all I need to go through. Um, I guess I'll put a link to these kind of main ones. Hopefully these make more sense now. This kind of goes into code, how to actually implement it, like logic-wise, but yeah, I kind of just wanted to go over how players can talk, and it's pretty much the flow is always the client just tells the server first. Clients can't talk to each other. They shouldn't be able to talk to each other. Um, so yeah, clients tell the server, and the server relays everything. So yeah, I think I'm just gonna end it here. I think it was I don't know. I feel like I just spilled a bunch of knowledge randomly at you guys, but hopefully it helps. Let me know because I'll keep making these if they do. If not, I'll just keep it to my own team and myself. Uh, Thanks for watching though, guys.